welcome Margaret Johnson with us today. She is the wife of one of our board members. She also works at Disability Rights California. Welcome and thank you for coming.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Were you born and raised in California?
No, I was born in Ohio and lived there till I was about 18. Moved to Illinois for school and lived there for a while. And then I moved out here to California, the Bay Area, and stayed there about 25 years. Then moved to Southern California, San Diego area for about 5 years. And I've been up here in Sacramento for about 6. I always wanted to live in California as a kid, so kind of had my dream come true. I'm living in California.
So here you are. And do you have good work?
I work for Disability Rights California. I'm an attorney with them.
And that entails what?
Being an attorney, what does that entail? Oh,
Are you in the courtroom over specific
no,
things?
not anymore. I used to do more courtroom work when I was in the Bay Area. I'm what's called the advocacy director now, and I'm over our advocacy unit. So I'm more of a project or program director at this point, so I don't get an opportunity to do any more litigation. I do some lobbying. I'm not a registered lobbyist, so I don't do as much as a registered lobbyist can do, because if you do a certain amount of lobbying, you have to be registered. So I don't do that much, but I do a little bit of lobbying for us in addition to doing the program management. And the lobbying I do is primarily in the area of mental health legislation. So that's my kind of lobbying specialty right now. But we lobby in all areas of disability law.
How's California doing with disabilities?
Well, pretty good. I mean, it's one of the reasons it attracted me, in addition to ever since I was a kid wanting to live here, is that this is the home of the independent living movement. So particularly the Berkeley area and San Francisco area had a lot of innovations and improvements to make the city and the area more accessible to people with disabilities. So that attracted me there. California is, better than it was. It still has a ways to go, but certainly improving in terms of access for people with physical disabilities, people with sensory disabilities. I think in the mental health arena, we're still lagging a little bit behind. There's a lot of stigma and discrimination going on. In fact, that's one of the projects we recently got was related to trying to reduce stigma and discrimination against people with mental health disabilities.
Now, you're in a wheelchair, and gently
Yes.
and sweetly and respectfully, how long have you been in a wheelchair?
Oh my God, you mean I gotta reveal my age?
Well,
I've used a wheelchair since I was 4, let's put it that way.
oh, fair enough.
And people can kind of guess at my age, so long time.
And what brought you to a wheelchair?
I had polio when I was a child, so when I was 4, I had polio, so.
And was it hard, or did you just, once you started, you went with the flow? How did you handle all of that?
Well, being 4, I don't remember a lot about having polio. And the way that they did rehabilitation around polio was really to encourage people to do as much as they could and to really strengthen muscles that remained, and a lot of that kind of, I call it hardcore rehab, where you're really taught that anything that you want to achieve, you're capable of achieving. So that was instilled in me in an early age, obviously, since I had polio when I was 4.
By your parents?
Well, and the whole medical profession, rehab units, everything that went into trying to get a person to be more motivated. It's a common factor with most people who had polio in this country. It's just how we were rehabilitated and the way that we were trained and taught to look at our disabilities. So yeah, it's pretty common. If you interviewed other people who had had polio, you would hear a similar kind of experience. Most of us are overachievers, so.
Is polio
Catching? No.
extinct?
Well, not totally. I don't know if you ever follow any of that, but worldwide, I think it's still prevalent in some countries in Asia, and I'm not sure about Africa. I'd have to look at the stats. I just looked at that. I belong to a post-polio organization in the Bay Area, and they send out newsletters, and periodically they kind of give an update on whether it's been eradicated worldwide. The last case in this country was in the 60s.
Oh. Do you have brothers and sisters?
One sister.
And where is she?
She's in St. Louis.
And have you share a relationship and
Yes,
email and all that good
absolutely.
stuff these days?
My sister and I are very close. She's a nurse. She's actually an oncology nurse. So
Are
she
your
does
parents
that.
still living?
My dad died back in the 80s. My mom is still alive, and she lives on the farm that I grew up on in Ohio still.
Wow.
Yeah.
Strong, independent women, sounds like.
Yeah, really.
That's great. Now, we know your husband well. How did you guys come to be?
Oh my goodness. That is a long and sordid question. We met initially in college in Illinois. We both went to college at Southern Illinois University in Carbondale. So we met back in the early 1970s. So we met then, and on 30 years later or something, we happened to have another connection and got hooked up at that
And
point.
there it was.
Yeah.
Did you know you wanted to be an attorney when you were
A kid?
13?
No, I thought I was going to be an artist. So I really enjoyed art, drawing, painting, craft work. That was the kind of thing where my heart really was. But I didn't think I could make a living at that. So that was kind of why I moved into social work. And I worked for a while for the Social Security Administration in Chicago and then transferred out here to California. That was part of the move here to California, was to be able to transfer. And when I was working for Social Security Administration, I just felt like I wanted, of course, this is what I wanted. It didn't necessarily turn out this way, but what I wanted was a job where I could be my own boss, set my own hours, just felt like I wanted to have more freedom in terms of being able to work when I felt, able to work and not work so much when I felt like I want to take a break. So I thought, well, being an attorney, that's, gives you a fairly good income, and you can set your own hours and pick your clients, so to speak. So I decided to go to law school in the early 80s. So I went to law school, went to Golden Gate University in San Francisco. And thing was, once I graduated past the bar, I ended up, my first job was with Disability Rights Education and Defense Fund at Berkeley. And then I applied for a job with where I work now, which was then called Protection and Advocacy Incorporated, and they were in Oakland. And I applied with them, got a job with them, and that was about 1987, I believe. And I've just stayed with them ever since, and it is a regular job. So even though I thought I was getting into a lot of be self-employed, it didn't work out that way. But I'm fighting the good fight, so I feel really good about where I work.
Now, we often hear horror stories about the bar exam. How'd that go?
Oh, the bar exam was tough, really tough, really, really tough. But I didn't ask for any accommodations. A lot of times people with disabilities can get additional time or, other things like that depending on their disabilities. But I just went in there like a regular person. Well, I am a regular person, but like somebody without a disability.
Right.
Just went in there as if I was anybody taking the exam, which was a little foolish because they ended up sticking me in the middle of a row, which was kind of challenging to get into because I had to move all the chairs and everything. So I probably should have at least alerted them that they might want to put me on the end somewhere so that I could do that. But it's a challenge. I had a strategy. I had little tapes that I had made, little motivational tapes, like relaxation tapes. I taped them all in my own voice. You're relaxing, you're visualizing that you're passing the exam, and just that kind of thing. It was kind of a hoot. And then I'd go out and sit in my car during the breaks and play those tapes for myself. So
And did they work?
it did, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
When I took the college entrance exam back 1,000 years ago, in a large auditorium, with another 500 or 600 high school seniors, kids, the guy on the right of me was chewing lifesavers.
Oh no.
Crunch, crunch, crunch. And the girl on the other side of me, we were in those tablet arm folding chairs, and she'd, between, questions and answers, tap her pencil. And I wanted to just smack them both, because we were bearing down. But passed with flying colors, and away we went and got into college where I wanted. And I look back on that now and think that was kind of funny, but they about had me both ready to scream at the time.
I know, and we all kind of get prepped for that because we take bar exam prep courses, and we hear from other people who take it. And so I had earplugs So to compensate for those kinds of issues. And the other thing, just to let you know, is we at one point thought we were going to move to New Mexico, so I took the New Mexico bar exam also, and I'm licensed in New Mexico as well as
Good for
California.
you.
Yeah, so I've actually got 2 bar exams under my belt. The second one I didn't take till, I think around 2000. I want to say like 2004, 5, something like that. So I'd already been a lawyer for like 20 years in California and trying to study for a bar exam in another state where they actually test on Indian law, which is not, most states don't test on Indian law. So I had to totally brush up on a whole new area of law. Plus, water rights are really big in New Mexico, even more so than in California, that's a pretty big deal here too. So they tested pretty heavily on that. So I'm like, whoa, got to learn a whole new area of law here in order to take this bar exam.
Quite a lot of years ago, when I was a young man, we lived in a farming community, and there was a 3-man water board, and I got elected to that. And in the course of that, 2 men who felt like they were stealing water from each other, because their turns would come, at 11 o'clock at night or whatever. And if you turned 3 minutes too early or whatever, it felt like they were. Anyway, one guy whacked the other guy at the back of a shovel.
Oh no!
And knocked him unconscious. Opened a little bit of a wound, enough to go to the hospital and things. And then they brought all of that forward to the water board to resolve it. And at the time, I thought, grow up, you guys, grow up. And your water turn isn't till 11 o'clock. Don't turn it till 11. Don't turn it at 10:57. The law, turn it at 11 o'clock. And that went on and on and on for weeks and weeks over 3 minutes worth of water rights, but that was a big deal.
Yeah, water rights are a big deal.
They are. What do you do for just relaxation, kick back, and forget about work and do something fun you want to do?
Well, we do a number of things. We enjoy biking, believe it or not. We have a tandem bike. I don't actually pedal, so when you see us riding around, it looks kind of funny, but it's a tandem recumbent bike.
Oh, how nice.
Of all things. So I'm kind of lounged back, hanging onto the thing, and poor Monty's there pedaling away, pulling us both around. But we usually go on kind of more flat surfaces, like we enjoy the, what's that trail called that goes along the American River? You pick it up in Discovery Park, so that one. And then we live in the pocket area, so at Garcia Bend Park, there's a trail there that you can get on also and go along on the bike.
And that is relaxing. You talked earlier about cooking.
Yes, I love to cook.
What?
Well, I had another husband before this husband, as you can probably suspect, since I didn't get married to him till later. But that husband was a Zen Buddhist, and he was vegetarian. So I was married to him about 22 years or so. So during that period of time, I got quite skilled at being a vegetarian cook. And in addition, my cholesterol tested a little high at one point, so I cut out even milk and eggs and cheese. So I became what you might call a vegan cook. So I pride myself on being a very good vegetarian, vegan chef. So
Are you in good health?
Yes, absolutely.
Good.
Yes, probably better than most people. I rarely get sick. Maybe I get a cold once a year, maybe not. Just kind of depends. So yeah. In fact, we were just talking, Monty and I, that he's taken more advantage of our health plan than I have. I mean, I go in for my mammograms and that sort of stuff, but he's the one that's been getting under the knife more than me.
If you could go back to childhood and your mother had cooked something for you, a meal of some sort, what would that be?
Oh, I love spaghetti. That was always my favorite. She made really good spaghetti and meatballs.
Now, Monty is a member of our board and a man we really enjoy and all of those other sorts of things. Do you practice a religion?
Do he and I?
Uh-huh.
Well, he's involved with the Unification Church.
Right.
And then we also practice a little Buddhism too. So we're involved with it's called the One House of Peace. They're a organization that started here in Sacramento. The founder has since moved to Portland, but she continues to maintain a presence here in Sacramento. And we have a small sitting group. I think there's 9 of us now, maybe. And we take turns guiding our meditation group. And people can come and join the group if they want to sit. It's like an open thing for anybody. And we're doing that currently at the Simple Human Yoga Studio. So that's one thing we do, and then we do the Unification Church services.
I've never talked to anyone who studies and follows Buddha who wasn't enlightened by the world and the universe and the peace and the decency and honor and all of those other sorts of things. Do you find that to be true?
Yes, I think that one of the things that I've noticed about Buddhism is that it's really a way to get, to put it in Christian terms, in touch with your inner God. So it really is a way to tap into that spiritual center that exists in all of us. And I think through Buddhism, I've come to realize that everything is God, and it's just, being able to tap into that flow and being connected with that spiritual sense that permeates the world that is really nice about it. So
I have a couple of favorite sayings that people are familiar with because I say them all the time. But one of them is that God speaks in many voices.
mm-hmm.
There's a lot of different ways that God speaks to us, and I find that satisfying and truthful.
Mm-hmm.
That rings truth. The other one we talk about a lot is that we all live in the same house. We just came through different doors.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that one also really rings true.
Mm-hmm.
Now, were you raised in a religious home?
I was raised Presbyterian, and I went to Sunday school and did the whole, I forgot, I'm blanking on what you call that when you get accepted into the church. So I did whatever, one does. I mean, in the Presbyterian church, you get baptized at an early age. I know in your church, people tend to get baptized later when they can actually say that they're going to do that. But in Presbyterians, you get baptized really early, and then later on in your teenage years, you study and you officially say that you want to join that church. So yeah, I did all that.
Did you sing all of the old Christian hymns?
Yes, absolutely.
Do you have a favorite?
I love the Christmas ones best. So, like Oh Little Town of Bethlehem is one of my favorites.
Oh,
so
I like
yeah,
those too.
yeah. So those
Is
are always my
music a
favorites.
part of your life?
I really do enjoy music. It ebbs and flows over time. I'm not a very good singer, but for a while I did take some singing lessons just because I wanted to get more in touch with being able to sing. The teacher told me that I should probably always sing with a group, so you don't want to be doing any solos. And when we were in San Diego, we used to go to an Episcopal church, and we were in the choir there. So that was really fun. We did that for about a year, where we were part of the choir. And
We have a friend, a woman in our church, who tells everybody she can't sing alone very well, but if she can stand next to somebody
Mm-hmm.
who's singing, and she does, and they several times in the choir they've had her and another woman do duets or three of them,
Mm-hmm.
and her voice sounds wonderful, but she says, I just can't do it alone very well. I can't hear it quite as well and things. So
well, yeah, you have to. For me, it's kind of the same thing too. I have to hear it. Like I can't really sing without music because I'm a great mimic. So if I can hear what it is that I'm supposed to sound like, then I can imitate it. But it has to be immediate. It's not like I can recall what the sound was and make it later. I have to be immediately hearing it. And when I had the singing classes, that's what the teacher said, was that it was helpful for me to have somebody else to mimic, because if somebody was singing next to me, then I would sound like that person sounds. So,
did you know your grandparents?
not my grandfathers. On my mom's side, my grandfather died when she was quite young of pneumonia, and then on my father's father was murdered actually for a paycheck when he was a young child. And then his mother remarried, so I knew his stepfather, but I didn't know his father. Both of my grandmothers lived to be ripe old ages. My father's mother into her 80s, and my mom's mother into her 90s. So, yeah, so I knew them.
And were they typical grandmothers? And
Well, yes and no. My dad's mom was from the Ukraine, and she never really learned English. And my dad was kind of from that era where he felt everyone should speak English and people shouldn't speak another language. He, of course, knew Ukrainian because he was raised by his mom, who only spoke Ukrainian, but he refused to teach it to my sister and I. So we always had a language barrier with my grandma, which even to this day I regret somewhat that I never had a real good opportunity to speak to her and hear more about, her life as a child in the Ukraine, and, all those sorts of things were kind of kept from me. And then my mother's mother had a stroke fairly young. I must have only been about 8 or 9, and that pretty significantly changed her personality. So even though she lived like another 40 years or something, it was like a different experience with the grandma. So
I ask that because being a grandparent's a terrific approach in life.
I agree. Between Monty and I, we have 7 grandchildren right now.
So fun to love your
I
children's children.
know. It's more fun than the original child. I have one daughter, and oh my God, when I had the grandkids, it was like, oh, this is so good. This is worth having a child to just get to the grandkids. Not that children aren't a blessing. I don't want people to take that the wrong way, but the grandchildren are wonderful.
Are you happy you were born a girl?
Yes.
I just read a book on Eve, and she's somebody I've long admired. But the 2 most important people in my life are my mother and my wife. Not because others weren't, but they've just nurtured and loved and all those other things. Anyway, this was a wonderful book on Eve, and it just pointed out so much the strengths of women and the differences. It didn't try to make equality. It let Adam be Adam and Eve could be Eve and do the things that she did and did so well. And I found myself thinking, wow, I'm glad there were girls. That's really, really nice. Are you where you thought you would be? Are you now, 20 years ago, or you where you are sort of where you thought you'd be?
I don't know. It's hard for me to think back and try to think about where I thought I'd be. I tend to kind of live day to day. It's hard sometimes for me to envision where I'll be in the future. But
where would you like to be in the future?
Well, at some point I'd like to retire, although I'm not sure what that looks like because I really have a very strong work ethic. So sometimes it's frightening to me to think about retiring and not having anything to do. Monty's always telling me that it's not really that way, that you end up with, either increasing your hobbies or maybe, you pick up a volunteer job or a part-time job. He works at the Y and also does the work here with this board. So
and he's keeping an eye on his father.
Yes, who has Alzheimer's. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, when 20 years ago we thought 55, looked attractive, and then at some point in time we said 62, and then we said 65, and these days a lot of people say, well, I think I'll work till I'm 70.
Yeah, yeah, what the heck, feeling good, and the work's there. And
is your work still rewarding?
Yes, it is. Like I said, I'm fighting the good fight. I'm doing work that benefits people with disabilities, and I can't conceive of a better job, in my view, than trying to make sure that people with disabilities can lead independent, quality lives. So
I'd like to ask your opinion about the homeless. There's a big thing in California right now where let's decriminalize being homeless, and not all of them, of course, are in struggles, but many are mentally ill, and many have problems with addictions and other sorts of things that have caused them eventually to find themselves homeless. What's your opinion on all of that?
Well, I think that it's really important to provide services for people who are homeless in order to help people assess where they're at and where they want to be, and if they do have addiction problems, assist people in getting help with that, or if people have mental or psychiatric disabilities, help them get the treatment or services that they need. The organization I work for, I think I just looked at it recently, maybe 5 years ago or so, we brought a lawsuit, I believe it was in the Los Angeles area, where they were trying to close some programs for people who are homeless that help people who were homeless and had mental health disabilities, and those programs provided housing and other kinds of services. So I think, my position is really ensuring that some of those kind of programs continue and are actually increased so that people can access what's needed in order to get back into homes and get either jobs or, into programs that would help them.
Way to go. Keep it up. What about where do you see California in 10 more years?
I don't know. That's a little scary sometimes, isn't it? Unfortunately, I work a little bit on the state budget with our lobbying efforts, and just the cuts that are happening for people with disabilities are pretty devastating. And it's not only that it's just 1 year it's devastating. This has been cumulative and going on for several years. I mean, I'm always very kind of a positive person, and I'm hopeful that California will start getting back on a different track fairly soon. We'll see.
Can we keep going with the greater division in the political parties? We get asked that in the interfaith a lot. How can we help in the social stepping forward of pulling people and things back together? Is there a miracle cure there?
You got me. It's really funny you say that. Monty, my husband, is a Republican. I'm a Democrat. I mean, we managed to coexist, although we'd have some heated arguments periodically over some things. But
will the president get reelected?
I don't know. Let's hope so.
Okay, if we lived in a magic world where we could just push a button and fix something, what would you fix first?
Well, when I fix first, I think I'd bring peace on earth. Isn't that, I mean, I don't know, just I would love to see us get along, be peaceful, be able to coexist, allow people to have their differences and not take it personal. So
I like that. You should be able to disagree with each other and not say you're slapping at me and all of those other sorts of things.
Exactly.
How about disabilities in the future? Are we going to get better? Or have we plateaued? Will we sort of stay where we are in helping people who have disabilities? What will happen there?
Oh, definitely things are going to continue to improve because as we, this is like a lengthy thing. Should have asked me this first, but in terms of movement, we've moved from isolating and segregating people to now really trying to fully include and integrate people into the society. And we're still not completely there, but we're a long way from where we used to be. So I just see us continuing to do that kind of integration, improving the quality of life for people with disabilities so that they can just live in the community like anybody.
Thank you. We're out of time. Thank you for being here. It's nice to visit with you.
Sure.